A few months ago, Alter Bridge broke new ground with the release of their first ever graphic novel entitled Alter Bridge Tour of Horrors. This band is known for their high quality rock music, but can they also produce good standalone visual media worth the $25 entry fee? Let's dive in and find out. Tour of Horrors was published on January 31st of this year, so it's about 2 months old at this point. It's about 120 pages and it'll take 45 minutes for a first read if you're actually taking your time to get the full experience. And man, what an experience it is. When Alter Bridge's roadie Chris goes missing in between shows, a ghoulish man named Trauma takes his place, and the band's tour rapidly goes from bitchin' to bewitchin'. I'm so sorry. I had no idea what to expect from this novel, and I was pleasantly surprised by how much fun it was to read. There are a lot of twists and turns, and there's also a good balance of action, drama, humor, and horror. If you're not a fan of gore or violence, this book may not be for you, since there is plenty of it. However, the use of gore is well timed and often hilarious, and I quite enjoyed the shock value. Without spoiling too much, I'll just say that watching Mark chop someone's head off with an axe was not what I expected from this novel, but it was awesome just the same. The reason for this is largely due to the novel's fantastic illustrations. Each page is filled with detail and color that brings the book to life. There's a lot to absorb here, so I'm looking forward to rereading this novel to catch anything that I might have missed. The art style is consistent throughout most of the book, but there is one scene in the first act that switches things up. It was a little jarring and confusing at first, but it's later revealed to be a dream sequence, so that stylistic shift for the scene actually makes sense. Ironically though, I prefer the dream sequences style to the rest of the book, simply because the band members' appearances are a lot closer to their real life versions. The primary designs for each member are quite different than real life, and sometimes I found it difficult to tell who was who, especially considering that most of the band members were dressed in black. The dream sequences style made it quite easy to tell characters apart because they actually looked like themselves, rather than the highly stylized approach elsewhere in the novel. I think that the shift in design would have been a lot more effective had the styles actually been reversed. Start with the realistic version, then go to the artistic version for the trippy dream sequence, and then return to realism when you return to the real world. It's a tried and tested approach in visual storytelling, so I'm not really sure why they reversed it for this book. There's one other major critique I have kind of along the same lines, but it has to do with the actual story as opposed to the art. I was a little disappointed by the lack of Alter Bridge in Alter Bridge Tour of Horrors. They are present throughout the story, but the plot focuses mostly on the character Trauma and his backstory. And there were times that I forgot I was reading an Alter Bridge novel because they've just been out of the spotlight for such a significant amount of time. Don't get me wrong, the story was interesting and I did enjoy it, but I was hoping for a little bit more focus on the band themselves, since their interactions were usually my favorite parts. Brian and Scott have a couple of hilarious goofball moments that give you a glance into the band's offstage lifestyle, and that was great to see. If Alter Bridge decides to publish more graphic novels in the future, I hope that they actually include more of themselves, since that was the main reason that I bought the book in the first place. All gripes aside, Tour of Horrors is well written and well illustrated. Die-hard fans of Alter Bridge will love this book no matter what. And if you enjoy horror comics, it's a solid read. If you do decide to buy it, just make sure you keep your expectations in check. It's not going to be a life-changing literary experience about rock music's best foursome, but if you give it a proper read with your full attention, it's gritty, it's entertaining, and well worth the investment. I will say, I don't normally read graphic novels for pleasure, but I enjoyed this one a lot, so keep that in mind. But hey, just like music, visual art is subjective and everyone is going to experience it differently. If you have strong opinions one way or the other about Tour of Horrors, share them in the comments and let's talk about it. Alter Bridge continues to explore new artistic territory all the time, but it is important to go back and reflect on their older work since there's still so much value to gain from their music. And one area that I think always deserves a second glance is their lyrics, like the 6 amazing lyrics in this video that are guaranteed to blow your mind. Go watch that video next, and I'll catch you later.